Can we have a break before history now?
We will have a break after this before history. Okay. Chapter 6, we're on page 74. Go ahead and open to chapter 6, page 74.
Can I finish the sound I heard that you're on this one?
Alright, flight into the mountains and Sancho's errand. So, yesterday we read about, the whole chapter was about Don Quixote and his attacking and therefore his freeing of the chain gang. Okay? All those men who were manacled or handcuffed together, each of them being captured for a different reason. Okay? One of them was captured because he loved something so much that he stole it. One of them was a singer. What does that mean? Micah?
It means that he didn't have legs, and then
He what?
he confessed.
Very good. He kind of ended up tattling, basically. Confessed under torture. This guy didn't have enough money to pay a lawyer, so he was convicted. This man's just plain old evil. He was rude to women. This person was in jail because it seems like also rude with women. And then who is this guy? The really, really bad guy. What's his name? We labeled him GP. What does that mean?
Garbage person?
No, that would apply, but no. Not garbage person. Matthew?
I forgot his name. He needs to be extra guarded because he's extra evil and extra bad.
Yes, Riley. Yes, very good. Okay? His name was Gines de Pasamonte. He's the really, really bad guy. So at the end, Don Quixote ends up freeing all of them, and now all these men are running free. All these criminals are running free. So, chapter 6, flight into the mountains and Sancho's errand. As soon as Don Quixote and Sancho were able to take the road again, they made for the mountains to hide for a time, talking as they went about the ingratitude of some people. By nighttime, they arrived at the gorges of the Sierra Morena, and after searching a little, they selected a resting place between two rocks in a grove of cork trees. But fate had it that the villain Pasamonte, so the really, really bad guy that he had freed, the same person, wandered in the same direction and arrived at the very spot where master and man, worn out with the sufferings of the day, had fallen into a deep sleep. Pasamonte recognized them, and seeing how soundly they slept, cast covetous eyes on the knight's horse and the squire's donkey. What does Pasamonte want? Matthew?
The horse and the donkey?
The horse and the donkey. He wants to take them for himself. The horse he judged to be of little use and no cash value, but the donkey was sturdy. But taking it was no easy matter, for Sancho, anxious over the safety of his cherished Dapple in that wild country, where robbers might prowl around at night, had arranged himself to sleep as best he could on the back of his beast. So, Sancho is asleep while sitting on the donkey. Okay, so if this were him in the saddle, he is literally sitting there, okay, he is literally sitting on the donkey, has fallen asleep on top of his donkey, okay? So he's sitting on top of it asleep. And somehow, Gines de Pasamonte wants to try and steal the donkey he's sitting on without waking him up. Crouched on his wooden saddle, Sancho slept as if he was in a feather bed, and in that state Pasamonte studied him as he thought of his plan. After a while, he cut 4 stakes of wood and quietly propped them up under the 4 corners of the saddle. Then, gently loosening the saddle, he led the donkey out from under it and made off with the beast, leaving Sancho still mounted and undisturbed. Okay, let me explain what he did. So, here's Sancho, right?
So people spoke on his head.
He is sitting on top of his donkey, right? Okay, so, you need a pencil. This donkey has one really short leg and one really long leg. big head.
Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus.
Looks like he got punched in the mouth. Okay. Anyways, donkey. Okay. Now, here's what. Stop. Okay, so he's riding in the saddle, correct? Okay, so here's Sancho in the saddle. Alright, so what Gaim de Pasamonte does is he comes along and he props up 4 wooden stakes. So he puts one big stick here, one big stick here, and then there's 2 sticks on the other side. Okay, to hold up the saddle. And then, let me highlight the saddle here. Then he gets the donkey and he pulls the donkey out. Okay, so he loosens the saddle, he unties the strap here, pulls the donkey out, and all that's left is Sancho on the saddle, propped up on those 4 stakes. Okay, so when he wakes up, he's still in the saddle, but the donkey that was under him is gone. He's sitting up on 4 sticks.
And then he falls over. That's impossible. He's gonna fall over.
Okay. Okay. At the break of day, Sancho awoke, yawned and stretched, and instantly fell to the ground in a heap. So he fell off his perch here. He looked around in amazement to see what had happened and where Dapple was, but by that time she was many miles away. Sancho realized the trick that had been played on him and the loss he had suffered. He let go of his feelings so vociferously. So he let go of his feelings, which he was feeling sad, very loudly. So he's wailing. That the rocks all around him echoed with his wailing. His uproar awoke Don Quixote, who saw what was wrong and tried to comfort his grieving squire. See, here's another picture of it. That's how the author portrays it.
It looks like he's still on the horse.
No, that's Don Quixote. Sancho is over here.
I know, but it looks like he's still on his donkey.
Oh, no, he's not. Sancho at last calmed down after Don Quixote promised him 3 of the donkeys he had at home.
Oh, he does. He's on the saddle here in this picture.
So here's Sancho in the saddle, but there's no horse under him.
Why is he still standing? It's like he.
Because those 4 sticks right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are holding it up. It's like on pegs. Well, this is before he woke up. So when he woke up, this was the scenario he was in. After eating what was left of their food for breakfast, the knight and squire resumed their aimless wanderings through the glens and ravines of the country. Presently, they came upon what appeared to be signs that some unfortunate traveler had lost his way, and probably his life, in the wilderness. First, they found a saddle cushion, with a leather case strapped to it, both of them so rotten they must have been laying there abandoned for a long time. The case contained linen underwear, a pocketbook, and more than 100 gold coins. In the pocketbook were some sad love poems, which Don Quixote read with deep interest and sympathy. Of course, he loves anything romantic. Sancho, meanwhile, with the permission of his master, stuffed the money in a pouch and thought he was richly rewarded for all he had gone through. Later on, they came upon the carcass, or the dead body, of a mule lying in a creek, still saddled, but half devoured by birds and beasts of prey. So they're kind of like, it's almost like they're stumbling upon some kind of like problem scene, right? First they see the saddle and the pouch laying there. A couple yards away they find the horse, or the donkey, dead now, okay? And it was some kind of accident or someone had been attacked there. They have not found the rider yet though. An old goatherd they met later, someone who herds goats, was able to throw some light on the mystery. According to him, the traveler was indeed a lovesick shepherd. He was the guy that had written all those poems in the notebook, who had wandered into those parts, had gone stark mad, so completely mad. He was still haunting the mountains, running around almost naked, and at times very dangerous to solitary people he met. Don Quixote resolved to see him if he could, and during his stay in the mountains he did come across him twice, but to no purpose. The madman, in his more normal moments, would tell Don Quixote long tales of his romantic troubles, and then his fury would break out fresh to the danger of those near. Okay, so there's this man, a madman basically, who was wandering around in the mountains and the cliffs, and every once in a while he would have these like episodes of insanity, basically. I mean, he would run around naked, he would beat himself with rock, he would hurt himself, he was going crazy, okay? And Don Quixote would talk to him, so he ran across him twice. The guy would tell him of all his like troubled love stories, then he would go into a fit of insanity and he'd like run away screaming or whatever. It was perhaps the spectacle of this unhappy being and the loneliness of the surroundings that inspired Don Quixote with a new idea. He remembered that Amadis of Gaul once, in a similar wilderness, had decided to go mad and act out his desperate love for Angelica the Fair, who had rejected him in order to prove the depth of his affection for her. He had stripped naked and run about tearing up rocks and trees, and doing 1,000 other things worthy of eternal fame. Don Quixote decided to imitate his example and told his intention to Sancho. So, the idea is, this man in the book, I'm assuming it's a book, Amadis of Gaul, he decided, you know what? I love this woman so much, and she has rejected me. I'm going to show her how insanely in love with her I am by going crazy without her. That will prove to her how much I love her. Okay, so Don Quixote said, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to strip down naked, I'm going to run around the trees screaming and beating myself. That will prove to Dulcinea how much I love her. Yes.
There's only one problem with that. If she's not there, how does she know he's telling the truth? Oh, she would want to be there. He's stripped naked. I know, but how would she want to go crazy?
I'm sure someone would tell her, hey, that guy, he's insane. So Sancho, being the reasonable man that he is, but, sir, said Sancho, what cause have you to even go mad? Lady Dulcinea has not disdained you or even preferred someone else. He said, she hasn't even rejected you yet. You can't go insane. And the knight says, that is the point, answered the knight. There is nothing much in a knight errant going mad for a good reason. The thing is you have to do it for no reason whatsoever. Besides, my long absence from Lady Dulcinea is cause enough. I will go mad until you have taken a letter from me to her and returned with an answer.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Dear God, said Sancho earnestly, in some matters I cannot understand your worship, for you say and do things that make me think knight-errantry is mostly make-believe, and that you know it. Is it possible that you have been with me all this time without being sure of that? Said Don Quixote. Of course the affairs of knights are mostly delusions, simply because of the many wicked sorcerers who transform everything in order to frustrate and mislead us. We can see things like windmills and barbers' basins as plainly as others, but we can also see that they can be disguises for giants or magic helmets. So we see here a little bit of Sancho picking up on sometimes I wonder if you're just not, insane. And this whole knight-errantry business is starting to sound kind of foolish. I think you're just making stuff up. And Don Quixote says, have you been with me all this time and you haven't known that? Of course knight-errants make things up. But it's not because we do it on purpose. It's the sorcerers that make us think differently. Sancho's like, oh, okay. As they talked, they came to the foot of a rugged mountain, with a green and pleasant valley on the side of it, through which a small creek ran. This Don Quixote declared to be the place where he would stay, alone and naked, while Sancho went on his errand to the Princess of Toboso. Sancho suggested using Rocinante to speed his journey, and Don Quixote agreed. However, he desired that Sancho not leave at once, but wait a minute, and witness him tearing up his clothes, throwing his arms around wildly, knocking his head against rocks, and other acts suggesting insanity. He's like, wait, make sure you stay long enough to actually see me go insane, so you can describe to Dulcinea how insane I'm acting, just to get her attention. Oh, for the love of heaven, Sancho said. Be careful how you trifle with your head, sir, for you might happen to hit it against the sharp point of a rock, and therefore put an end to yourself. If your worship thinks something of the kind must be done, why not ram your head against, water, or something soft, like cotton, and let me report whatever I please to Dulcinea. He's like, why don't you hit your head on something soft, and I'll just tell her you hit it on rocks. Because if you actually hit it on rocks, you might actually accidentally hurt yourself.
I'll kill yourself.
What does it matter, seeing that all this is make-believe anyway? No, said Don Quixote. My madness must be no mere mockery. But you can leave me some lint and ointment, basically bandages, to dress my wounds while you are away. If your worship will write the letter at once, Sancho replied, I will hasten off with it and return without delay to take care of you. Don Quixote wrote out the letter on a sheet of paper taken from his pocketbook and told Sancho to have it recopied in good handwriting before he gave it to Lady Dulcinea. She does not know my handwriting, so it will not matter, he said. Indeed, during the 12 years that I have been in love with her, I have only seen her 3 times, and she has never bothered to even cast her eyes on me. Such is the seclusion she is kept in by her father, Lorenzo Corchuelo. What? Exclaimed the squire. The daughter of Lorenzo Corchuelo, who is named Aldonza? That is Lady Dulcinea del Toboso? It is she, answered Don Quixote. Why, I know her very well, said Sancho. And fine strapping girl she is, too. She can lift as much as the strongest man in the whole parish, and I bet she could hold her own against any knight that has ever ridden a horse. And what a splendid voice she has, too. I remember one day she climbed the church tower to call to laborers in the fields, and she was heard a mile away, as if she was standing right next to them. Oh, and what courage! She makes a game of everybody, and never fails to pay back a joker with interest. Okay, basically, what Sancho has described is a woman who is incredibly strong, like a man. She has a very loud voice. She can yell from top of the church towers, so much so that you can hear her a mile away. And she plays pranks on all the boys. Does this sound like a very ladylike woman to you?
Yes.
No.
Does this sound like a princess to you?
No.
No. But what is the good of sending vanquished knights to her? When they find her threshing in the barn or working in the fields, does that sound like a princess to you?
No.
And fall on their knees before her, she may only laugh at them or think they are making fun of her, which might be worse for them. He's like, listen, I know this girl you're talking about, and she doesn't seem like the kind that wants like girlish flattery. She's kind of a beast, if I'm being honest with you. Friend Sancho, said Don Quixote, you are an eternal babbler, and you lack understanding, as I have told you before. The lady in question serves my purpose admirably. Do you think, you ignorant, foolish man, that the famous ladies in books and ballads are really ladies of flesh and blood? Certainly not. They are mostly imaginary persons. It is enough for me if I imagine Aldonza to be the most beautiful, most gracious princess in the world. Yes.
In that picture, there's like a little flying baby above. And what?
Yeah, seems like it.
And the page before that, I don't get it.
Okay, I'm done. Page 85. Your worship is always right, and I am a mere fool, answered Sancho. Let me have the letter and be on my way. Don Quixote wrote the letter and then read it aloud to Sancho, so that if by any chance it was lost, he would know its general message. This was the letter. High and sovereign lady, he who is stabbed by the point of absence, and pierced by arrows of love. O sweet Dulcinea del Toboso, greet thee with wishes for that health which he does not enjoy himself. If your beauty despises me, if you favor me not, and if your disdain still follows me, though I am used to suffering, I can hardly endure a sickness so severe and so lasting. My good Squire Sancho will tell you, O fair beloved one, of the condition I am reduced to on your account. If it is your pleasure to accept me, I am yours. If not, do what seems good to you, for my death will only mean the end of your cruelty and my own passion. Yours until death, the Knight of the Sorrowful Face.
What?
Okay, so what he's saying is, I hope you are well. I hope you're healthy, because I am not. If you hate me or don't love me, even though I'm used to it, I cannot endure it any longer. Sancho will tell you, woman, of the condition I'm reduced to. He's like, listen, my squire can tell you I'm going insane over here because I love you so much. If you don't want me, if you want to accept me, great. If not, tell me now and I'll put an end to my misery and I'll die. And it will be over. That's basically it. Knight of the Sorrowful Face. Why is he sorrowful? Because he's so in love with her and misses her so much. Yes.
I don't understand the picture on page 78. Or no, on page 80. Page 80. 4K, I think. There are 4 people.
Yeah. One's the madman.
The Don Quixote and Sancho.
Probably the goat herd. The goat herd that told him about it.
That was a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Like a shepherd. Okay. Sancho said how magnificent a competition it was, and then mounted Rocinante and prepared to ride away. But Don Quixote ordered him to stay and watch some of his mad tricks.
Oh.
Don Quixote then tore off his clothes, danced in the air, and tumbled himself over a few times, so that when Sancho left, he felt he could honestly swear that his master was crazy.
Okay, I probably would.
And that is the end. So, we'll see next week. Excuse me.